for me, one of the most spectacular aspects of the Yarra Valley is, of course, its gardens. And some are, these really beautiful big ones that are almost like public spaces, and people visit them, and they're very, very big scale. But there are these other ones, little secret hidden away places that are the result of years of dedication and love and knowledge and commitment. And Virginia Hayward's here in Seville is one of them. It's one of the gardens that is usually featured on the secret gardens of the Dandenongs, but of course not this year. But I've been given a special entree, and Virginia's going to meet me and show her around this spectacular place. I really can't wait. Come with me. Virginia, lovely to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too.
And what a place! I've only just walked in, but I'm already overwhelmed. Look up there. How could you get sick of that view?
You don't, and it changes all the time. I quite often wake up and the whole of the valley is covered in mist, and I'm up above it, which is beautiful.
Is there a name for this property? Is it one of those ones that you must come and visit the something gardens, or is it just Virginia's place?
It has been called Hayward House because my surname is Hayward, but it's a private garden. This is why it was in the secret gardens of the Dandenongs, because
Indeed.
it's one of those private gardens and there's in the Yarra Valley and the Dandenongs, there are so many private gardens that are just fabulous. My garden's pretty good, but of course, because of the view, if it's not looking the best, nobody notices because, there is that view.
Nonsense.
It's
Absolute nonsense.
fabulous.
It's completely exquisite. It virtually started from nothing, I believe. Well, lay on and give me the guided tour.
There was nothing here when I came. This is my frog pond. It's had several attempts. It's now lined in concrete to make it hold the water.
Right.
And the big dam down there, that wasn't there, although there had been one here a long time before.
That's one of the few plants I can actually name in this garden because my mother had it. Pride of Madeira.
The echium. They're beautiful. I had a very big one here, which I just pulled out a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And all these are seedlings from it. And it is so full of bees. They do call it the bee plant. And I have got so many bees. Bees
Wonderful.
and small birds.
Honey?
No. But I
Next
get
year.
honey from up past your place.
Great.
On the highway.
All right. Virginia, you don't just suddenly decide one day to design a garden as magnificent as this. Tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I moved out of Melbourne in 1975 and I came back in 99. The last 10 years I was at the House of Commons.
You're at the House of Commons. Stop. Well, okay. What were you doing at the House of Commons?
I worked for a woman called Claire Short, who was in
British Cabinet Minister.
Cabinet Minister,
Okay.
that's right.
What were you, Cabinet Secretary or something?
I was her researcher initially.
Okay.
I was described as her political advisor. And she was Secretary of State for International Development.
Right.
And she was often the Women's Minister in the party as well.
That would have been a very high pressure job.
It was. And I was a single parent, so it was quite hard. And when my dad got ill, I thought, no, single parenting and this job don't quite go. I'll nip off to Australia for a couple of years and look after Dad, and then I'll come back. However, I think because I had the 5-year-old in tow, Dad lived longer than expected.
Yes.
And by the time I was ready to go back, she'd turned into an Australian.
Okay, they do that, don't they? You take your eye off them and suddenly they've got a football club and they've got a funny accent.
And of course, you know, my father, because he did broadcast the
Yes.
football, she did get, and she was very sporty, like her
Your
grandfather.
father was one of Australia's great, some say, one of the greatest football broadcasters for the ABC.
And I turned on 774 the other day and they were playing an old game that he was calling.
Ah,
It was amazing.
Doug Hayward.
Doug Hayward, yes.
Many of us will remember him. All right, a little bit more garden, please. Let's come down to this bed here.
Got more of the Echium, of the Pride of Madeira. This is about to flower. A lot of the things in this bed are just about to flower. This is called a Mexican lily.
Look at this.
Called Bechanoria. And they haven't, you know, soon, another 2 weeks, they'll be stunning. They'll be taller and they'll be in flower.
This is a very unusual. I've never seen this in the Yarra Valley. Is this a rare plant?
You don't see them around a lot. There's quite a few of them in the Botanic Gardens now. I'm a guide at the Botanic Gardens.
Okay.
And yes, there's quite a few of them there. I mean, the Botanic Gardens in South Yarra is so awe-inspiring. It's very, it helps. I wander around there and I think, oh, that's gorgeous, I must have it.
Well, you've taken a bit of that awe-inspiration and transferred it to here. But where did you learn? Your career, as you said earlier, was a researcher for a British cabinet minister in the British government. Where did you learn how to do this?
Well, I came back to look after Dad because he was unwell.
Yes.
Had my going away party at Downing Street.
Yes, you do.
Came back and didn't...
Number 10?
No, number 11. and didn't know anybody, you know, because I hadn't been here for so long. I hadn't been here for 20 years. And so I had at that stage, 6-year-old and a 76-year-old. And I was bored. So I went to Burnley.
Oh,
did horticulture.
Horticultural college at
Yes.
Burnley. Oh, okay.
And I did horticulture.
Well, you obviously did very well because this is a result of it. I mean,
and this is an Australian native, this plant here, and in another month that will be full of huge pale pink hibiscus flowers. It's absolutely beautiful.
let's have a look at. I like this oldie worldy lemon grove. Let's have a look at that.
Yes, that's.
I more than love what you've done, but tell me what was here before.
These lemon trees.
Yeah.
Obviously.
They look very old. There's something about these sort of old world groves of lemons that are so touching,
It's
don't you think?
fabulous, it's fabulous. And down here I've got a whole lot of olive trees that were also here, but the garden beds around us weren't here. The gum trees were here. And there was a little bit of bed, there was a rose garden around the driveway when I came. But the worst thing was that I had a huge slab of concrete up there with no beds around it at all. It was so hot.
Yes.
And I had no birds. I had no little birds, lots of parrots, but none of the little birds. So I had to plant to bring the little birds in. You know, and that is about creating habitat.
But you've kept the sort of old style with a very modern kind of, well, not modern, but obviously newer and very highly curated garden too. Let's come over to the big pond because that looks really spectacular.
Yes, and my little bridge.
Let's cross the bridge.
It would fall in the river.
No. Oh, can I pinch a couple of lemons?
Of course you can. You can take a whole bag full.
Virginia, as the Edna Walling of the the Yarra Valley.
Absolutely not.
Did you sit down and design this, or on paper, or is it just an organic? Like, I like this bit, so let's put this bit here, etc. How does it?
Well,
it's a process if there was one.
I always had intentions, and I would every now and again, you know, do something on paper. But then I get carried away and
Yes.
suddenly, I'm like Fiona's doing her driveway. So I want all that soil to make a new bed, so I've got a new bed. That wasn't planned.
Aha.
But, and this was planned because I couldn't work out how to end the garden. We've got the vineyard below us, and I
Yes.
wanted to end the garden here, but a
Yes.
fence seemed wrong. And I knew I couldn't end with a hedge or anything high because I'd block the view. So it was logical to put water here. It's a silly place to collect water because we're up the top of the hill. But we've had such good rain the last couple of years.
So
It's been
this is
fabulous.
all rainwater. You don't have to bring water into it.
No.
Oh.
When we were fixing it up about a couple of years ago, we pumped all the water down to the bottom dam, and we found 3 long-necked turtles in the bottom. So
really?
we picked them up and rushed down to the bottom dam and put them in the bottom dam, and then fixed all this up. It took about 11 men to carry the liner in.
Right.
It was so dramatic. Filled it up, and then about a year later, I saw the long-necked turtles had come back.
Oh, lovely.
So I was
lovely.
thrilled. And the frogs, I've got so many frogs because
Yes,
I
I can
won't
hear
put
them
fish
now.
in there because they'll eat the frogs and I don't want, or the tadpoles.
Your selection of plants, how do you go about doing that?
Well, people say to me, oh, have you got a native garden? I say no. Oh, you've got an exotic garden? No. I have got a huge number, all of these plants here that we're looking at are native.
Yes.
However, I've got salvias scattered through here because the birds love salvias, and most of them come from either South Africa or from Mexico and South America. I mix and match. I grow things because I like them. You know, I love the pink flowers up there. I think they look fabulous. That's an African daisy. But who could remove them? Because they're not native. And, you know, I say to people, really, I haven't got a lot of plants from New Zealand. No, I mean native, but New Zealand's closer than Broome. What's the logic?
You also have a lovely vineyard down here.
I do.
Let's go and have a look at that. So Virginia, there is no Yarra Valley story where wine doesn't sort of poke its head in somewhere, and you've done the same with your property. And there's a lovely story to these grapes that you'd put in. Tell me what it is.
Well, I came here because I wanted the view and I wanted to do a garden. I didn't want to do wine. Too hard, too much to do, too old, didn't want to learn it. What I do is that I effectively give the grapes away.
Okay.
And then so somebody else looks after the grapes, makes the wine, and then usually will give me quite a few lovely bottles of Cab Sav, which is what is here. And Ryan, who is doing the grapes now from Stones,
Oh, Stones, wonderful.
he has a label called Fallow, and he's just doing the most magnificent job because they were neglected last year. I had them pruned, but they didn't have somebody who cared for them.
Yes.
And he's just cleaned them up, and he's planting flowers down between every second row,
Oh, wonderful.
which will be wonderful because it'll bring the bees.
But-
And he just went through yesterday sowing seed through all of here, so there'll be flowers for the bees.
And your payment for his service is just a couple of cases of wine, is it?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, the idea is to help a small business.
Yeah, great.
Not that Stones is a small business, but Fallow is a small business.
Great. Beautiful story. You must have several highlights, and I imagine this extraordinary plant is one of them. What are we looking at here?
That comes from the dry West Indies and Mexico. It's in the agave family. And this is the flower, except the flower has finished. They were white. And those are where, that's the propagation now. So we'll get lots of babies from that.
And where did this come from?
I got it from the Botanic Gardens.
Oh, you didn't knock it off after hours, did you, please?
Of course not. They were getting, they had this in the perennial border and then they just decided to dump it.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't want it anymore and somebody gave me a small, it had babies, it has babies.
Yes.
Although it's not weedy, it doesn't travel.
How
And
spectacular.
this is the winter flowering buddleia. Smell.
Yes, that's...
Absolutely beautiful, and the one behind it, the clematis, which is climbing over the tank. It's so pretty. I love having lots of flowers in winter.
Is it your favourite? I was going to ask, what's your favourite time for the garden?
Ironically, it's not so much what's my favourite time, it's when I hate it.
Okay, when is that? We'll flip that.
I hate it in February, early March, because I can't bear 40 degrees, and all my water comes from the sky, and I run out of water, so the garden just gets worse and worse. And ironically, when I gardened in London, I hated February because it was so dark and it was so cold. So whichever side of the world, I obviously need to go to New Zealand in February.
Yes, just a happy medium there. What do you use it for, Virginia, the garden? Did you have friends over? Is it would it be absolutely natural therapy just to wander around? I'm feeling very
A
calm
lot
in
of my
myself.
friends use it. A lot of people come and stay. It's in the Open Garden Scheme of Victoria. The Upper Yarra Valley Garden Club has, they have a weekend in October where they open gardens right through the Yarra Valley. That's fabulous, and my garden's in that sometimes.
And of course the Dandenong Secret Gardens, which of course because of
the Secret Gardens of the Dandenongs, which it was meant to be next week.
Okay.
But of course it's been cancelled because of COVID.
You know what?
But it should be on next year, and that is fabulous because that's a bus trip, so there's only 25 people, and it goes round the secret gardens, the gardens that people don't know exist. And this garden is particularly used because there's one tool which is for people that have mobility problems.
Okay.
And we can't do a wheelchair here, but a lot of it's flat and it's very easy to sit and walk around the house very comfortably if you find it difficult, if you have mobility problems. So this garden is used particularly for that.
Wonderful.
Which is excellent.
Show me something else.
Okie dokie, let's go. Oh, and Mike, look at this. This is a rose.
It's not a rose. What?
The bamboo rose. It doesn't. It's here just because it's such an oddity.
Well, it's not a long stem rose.
No.
I don't think this would do well at Flemington in the Spring Racing Carnival.
Certainly wouldn't. But I love things that are rare, and I love things that are just an oddity. And this is a bit of an oddity. I mean, when you consider the rose over there, that is a rose. But this is just special.
Does it flower as a rose? Though?
But you're looking at it.
Okay. There you go. It's a rose.
And Mike, here is a beautiful flower. I love a good flower. This is a clematis that I bought at Tesselaar's.
Oh, good old Teslas. Yeah.
Yes, I do a lot of my shopping at Tesselaar's and at Gentiana in Olinda.
I was going to ask where you get a lot of your
Yes.
stock from, but do you try and source it locally?
Yes, there's 3 good nurseries down in Mount Evelyn, all next to each other, which is wonderful. So you can go shopping and window shopping.
Okay.
And then Gentiana in Olinda and Tesselaar's. And that clematis definitely came from Tesselaar's.
Wonderful. Virginia, I love how you bring contrasts to your garden. I love this scene here. You have this beautiful ironwood in the background, which is pre-existing your garden.
Yes.
But you bring this into it as well.
And this is a classic bed, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The tree at the back of it is Australian.
Yes.
The shrub over here is Australian. Which is actually very beautiful. And then this, which I love, is South African. That's a Veltimia, and it's a bulb. And I like planting bulbs that disappear in February because I know they will survive the heat. And so I've got a lot of bulbs in the garden that disappear in February. And this is a ferula. This will have, it's the first cousin of fennel.
It looks like fennel, doesn't it?
Yes. And it will have a flower that goes right up. It goes about 5 foot into the air. It's a yellow flower.
Is this part of it?
Yes. It'll come in a while. It won't come. And then the Dryandra, the other yellow over here, that's another Australian native. Behind it is salvia, which probably comes from Mexico. I'm not sure where that comes from. But you know, this is, and what this garden is things that survive the rabbits.
Oh.
That's
your bête noire, the rabbits. It isn't kangaroos. A lot of people complain about kangaroos.
I love the kangaroos. They don't do it. They don't eat the garden. There was 7 of them up here the other morning,
right?
Which I rather liked. That was fabulous. But the rabbits do not touch the lavender.
Okay, good.
So suddenly
good.
I'm growing lots of lavender.
The work, do you have help or do you do it all yourself?
No, I have Graham, who comes probably 3 times a month, and he helps, and he is a qualified gardener.
Yeah.
And he's been coming to me for years, so we're good friends, we have fun. But that's all. But then Lisa, who stays here a lot, she mows the lawn, or my daughter Sylvie mows the grass. I've got to accept that there's a lot of weed in it and it's grass. I get a lot of help from my friends as well.
Oh, lovely. So it really is...
It's a sort of space where you want to do something.
Yes.
And I've always got something that needs to be done.
Absolutely. There would never be a time where you could get to a point where it's done now. There's actually nothing to do. I can go inside and put my feet up.
Never. And when it gets and my brother and in fact Sylvie, my daughter, have made me swear not to put in any more garden beds. So they just all keep getting wider.
Terrific.
Because it is too much for me, really.
It's been such a wonderful experience having this private viewing of this beautiful garden. When will the public be able? Will people who want to be able to come and see it be able to?
People who are interested in the secret gardens of the Dandenongs can look that up online, and that will be happening next October. Sometime probably next spring, I think probably Open Gardens Victoria will ask me to open, and always keep a watch out for the Upper Yarra Valley Garden Club weekend, because if mine's not in it, there'll be others. And it's usually 5 gardens for $20, which is a steal.
Lovely.
And it's a fabulous weekend.
Great.
And if I'm in it, I'm the first one. I'm the furthest away from Warburton, and they stretch through to Warburton. So it's good.
Virginia, it's been so wonderful having this private viewing of your magnificent creation. Let me be the last to congratulate you. What a beautiful achievement, your magnificent garden.
Thank you very much. I've loved having you here.
Thank you. Do continue to enjoy the Yarra Valley Garden Party, and this afternoon I might pop over to the Dandenongs and have a look at some tulips at Tesselaar's, and the best thing is, like at Virginia's garden, we'll have the whole thing to ourselves.